All right, guys, we're back. We completed our first series, clear 3-0 for Mihu. So we didn't get to see his TVZ really until today, and well, pretty masterful. Just crushed Zeke, unfortunately for him. Not his day to day, but still gonna have opportunity to get third place. But before we find out who his opponent is going to be, we're gonna have to get into our final series, which is, of course, Gypsy versus Dewalt. And I know I saw Team Liquid thread, and actually, a lot of people were voting for the big Gyp here to take down probably the best foreigner right now in Dewalt.
Yeah, I gotta say that's actually surprising. But Gypsy has shown very, very high skill level in this matchup specifically. And Dewalt, I got the info from Zero. Dewalt actually hasn't lost a series against a Terran since BSL 7. So if Gypsy is the one to do it, it's gonna be pretty impressive because Dewalt, I think, has the best versus Terran in the foreign scene. He just seems to beat all the Terrans, either whether it's Koget or Dandy or Terra, it doesn't matter. It's hard to beat him as a Terran.
Yeah, and even Koreans recognize Dewalt's Protoss versus Terran ability, because when we were setting up matches between him and Koreans, I was thinking, okay, well, what do I want to see Dewalt versus? I want to see him versus Zerg or Terran. And when they told me that he's got the best PvT, it's like, okay, give me a Terran, because I want to see if he can actually take down these Korean superstar Terran players. So this is going to be very, very tough for Gypsy. And even though Gypsy had a soul read on how Oyaji plays, going into the Arbiter, going into the carriers, Dewalt can play it all. He can play Reavers. He can play Gateway Man. He can play Shuttle Man. He can play carriers. He can play Arbiters. You really gotta scan this guy and see what he's doing. You can't just blindly say, okay, this guy's going to go 3 base, he's going to go to Arbiter, then switch into carriers. I mean, he's got it all. He's the full package.
Yeah, and Dewalt, I remember from, I guess it was RCG, the one he won, when he was playing Dandy in the finals, and game 1 and 2 he lost because he wasn't playing his style. And once he started playing his style, he crushed Dandy 3 games in a row. And basically, he likes to go Reavers and he's Shuttle Man, but he's also Gateway Man. And he's not afraid to go carriers, can also go Arbiters. He really just, he's the one who sets the tone in the matchup from what I've seen, and he feels more comfortable in that way. So Gypsy has his work cut out for him.
Yeah, and if I'm reading these statistics right, that versus Terran win rate says something like 95% or 90%. I mean, that's a ridiculous win rate. That's like almost Bonnet levels of win rate right there. And as I've stated, this guy's a monster. I think last time I played him on Ladder, I felt like I was macroing like really good. I'm like, man, I've got a hold of this. And then it was just endless units. I watched a replay, had like something like 25 gates. It was just permanently maxed. I was like, Jesus, like, how do you actually just match the macro of this guy? But if there's anyone from the Terran side that can match it, it's gonna be Gypsy, because if you watch his stream, he is on top of his macro. Like, he does not miss macro cycles. He doesn't miss EMPs. I mean, he can definitely go toe-to-toe versus Dewalt, but Dewalt is just so solid and he's just so overwhelming. It's going to be really, really hard for Gypsy. But with all that said, we are ready to get into game 1. It's going to be Wavelet again. First game of Gypsy versus Dewalt. Okay, so in the top right,
Bottom.
arguably how do I always get this wrong? In the bottom right, arguably the best Protoss player the foreign scene has, it is Dewalt.
And in the bottom left, we have Gypsy, who's looking definitely like one of the strongest Terrans to play in this tournament. He already beat Terror in this group. In this tournament, he beat Mihu as well. So definitely having some strong matches already behind him. He should feel pretty confident no matter who he's up against.
Yeah, and he got to see a Terran already play versus Dewalt, and he got to see him play on Wavelet, where we saw Ultra play versus Dewalt. And the Ultra honestly had chances to win that game. So Gypsy is aware of potentially the style Dewalt wants to play. Probably, assessed potential vulnerabilities. We saw Ultra pick apart Dragon on this map. And you know, watching a lot of Gypsy's games these days, talking with Gypsy these days, he started to implement some harassment type of style. So we may see that the drops that Ultra used to success versus Dragon, we may see that come into play versus Dewalt here.
Yeah, and harassment is definitely one of the stronger components of Gypsy's TVP. Just his vulture movement, always managing to find those angles to get in, get some probe kills, and mechanically he just looks like he's on another level from a lot of these Terrans, and he always doing up to date build and executing them very well. And Dewalt just opening with Gateway here, and gas, no scout quite yet, so very delayed scout here from Dewalt.
And I thought that we were going to see gasless this game. I just had a hunch that that was going to be the case, but just going to be the typical 12 gas opener from Gypsy. Meanwhile, looks like it's again just a typical standard opener from Dewalt. This is a 13 scout from Gypsy, so this is pretty much standard these days, 13 scout. And meanwhile, Dewalt has not scouted at all. May just use an initial zealot to scout or initial goons. For now, there is no zealot in production, at least not just yet. And looks like he's not actually going to go for that pressure.
Yeah, it looks like he just made the pylon. Not going to make that zealot, and he's not scouting either. Only has like 1 on gas, not even 2, so it's not going to be. It's probably going to be a rangeless expand. Just going to get that 1 goon.
Well,
and go ahead.
I was going to say, if you've been listening to Gypsy's stream, I think he even talked about this, where when he realizes that you're skipping range, sometimes he'll just pull versus this because he doesn't have to worry about, you know, the goons kiting the Marines forever or kiting the Vulture. You can just pop the Nexus if there's just a lack of units. So we may actually see that come in from Gypsy if he's able to get into the main and confirm that there is no range. Of course, you don't have to. You could just take your natural, but I'm just saying we may actually see a killing move potentially in the early stages. There's the Nexus that you were anticipating, and I think the SCV is actually going to get in.
All right, so this is a moment where Gypsy decides if he's going to go pull or if he's just going to expand himself. And, well, it looks like he's not making any Marines here. Just going to go pop down that command center.
Yep, and even though he didn't get into the main, he did see that the Nexus was so fast you can't have a goon and range and have the Nexus. So he is just going to expand off of this. You can see he even skipped bunker, so he knows his position right now. And he goes instantly into a add-on. Now, he can go into a second factory. He could just go into the upgrade style, but knowing how Gypsy has played lately with his Vulture harassment, I think we're probably going to see a second factory come in.
So finally getting range, he does have 3 on gas now, and this is just how the meta has evolved in the early game. For Protoss to get a fast Nexus, they don't really rush that goon range. It's not really that useful if Terran is just expanding themselves. So here we have, so we have 2 Marines now. Gypsy has to be careful. We're gonna retreat. The Vulture actually might be caught. Looks like Gypsy, what happened there? It got, oh my god, 1 hit away.
Yeah, but he at least gets it out. But the question is can he actually save it? Now, if you can get away with an opener like this, this is the dream scenario from Terran, because Vulture obviously costs very little. You don't have to go into the expensive siege upgrade. I mean, you have a lot of map control. It keeps goons back. And even though he lost the Vulture, he at least gets a second Vulture out onto the map. And you can see Dewalt, just like Dragon, passive with his goons. Like, he's respecting potential for drops, respecting potential for run by. He's just going to sit at his base and make sure he doesn't take any damage. And this is probably going as expected for Gypsy. He knows that Dewalt is a more passive type of player. And this is going to allow him to actually get really good econ going into the mid game.
Yeah, unfortunate to lose that first Vulture, because otherwise he would have 6 mines here. Not only at the front, looks like he actually made a 3rd Vulture even, not going into tank, really delaying that tank. And the wall, I mean, he's always gonna go Robo from this position, but I've seen him open Observer and then go later Reaver, which is actually pretty effective. Sometimes he'll go straight Reaver, but sometimes he'll just go 1 or 2 Observers, probably just 1, and then into that Reaver with speed later. And it looks like it is gonna be Observer. Only 2 gateways, 3rd gateway actually, so this is a pretty big investment. Usually you see the 3rd gateway after the 3rd Nexus, but he's going for 1 right away.
Well, this could be some mind games going on because both players stream, and I'm sure Dewalt is aware that Gypsy can play harassment-based style. And when you see vultures, I mean, that's what you're thinking, right? And you can see that he's anticipating drop goons moving into position. So to go 3-gate goon, I don't fault him here because you don't want to be running into harassment type play and you're stuck with 1 gate, right? So this is pretty much as safe as you're going to get as an opener for Protoss. 3-gate goon with Observer. It's going to delay his 3rd base for a little bit of time. Probe gets spotted by these mines, so Vulture should move around there and take it out. Now, Gypsy has talked about when he sees Observers just instantly taking a 3rd base. I don't know about that because he's only on 1 factory, and I think he's going to have to build up that factory count before taking another base.
All right, so we're actually going up into more Observers. No support bait quite yet. Gypsy, oh, actually has a turret, might snipe this first Observer, which would be disastrous. This is something you always got to be on top of that first Observer. He doesn't really see much, just the 2 tanks. He manages to spot a 2nd turret, but doesn't get a gauge on the factory count if there's an armory or not. So not a lot of information given away there by that 1 Observer.
Holy smoke, CRVT. Holy oh my god, guys. Huge thanks to CRVT, almost single-handedly confirming BSL 14. I see that the bar has completely filled up. Thank you so much, man. I mean, CRVT supporting the BSL massively in like the past 3 or 4 seasons, I remember. So huge thank you to him. That's like the biggest donation I've ever seen. But as far as this game, that Observer, I mean, Gypsy could be doing anything. He didn't get to see any of the factory count. He didn't get to see command center. He didn't get to see armory. Luckily for him, he's not doing some type of like 5-6 fact timing and going for like a bust. But yeah, big loss to lose that Observer.
Yeah, of course, because then you got to make more. You really want to have 2 minimum, 1 at the front and 1 in the base. You want to confirm stuff like the upgrade timing, the starport timing, the factory count. You really need all that information as Protoss. Otherwise, you're playing blind and you got to react later to what Terran's doing. It's like we have an Observer coming in now. He sees the starport, which is actually huge. That lets him know Gypsy's going for upgrades and not any kind of timing. And we have the wall just keeping that Observer there. He sees everything he needs to see, basically. And, well, Gypsy's getting his scans now, so Gypsy will also have information pretty soon.
Yeah, now I want to point out a subtle difference here. It's because between the game that we saw in Aztec last week and this game we're seeing right here. You can remember that the Protoss last week got no intel on Gypsy either, but the difference here is that there's no Goliaths. So the chance of this being something like a 7 fact, yeah, I saw him scan his own base. The chances of this being something like a 7 fact on 2 bases, very low, because if it was, those Goliaths would have moved out and killed that Observer. So Dewalt, I don't think should be anticipating that this is going to be factory man going for a crazy push. And you can see he's reading it correctly because he's taking a 4th base. But yeah, losing that scan, that hurts, because versus Dewalt, you really got to know what he's doing.
And Dewalt, I mean, it's going to be on 4 bases pretty fast. And there's that support bay I was talking about. So even though Dewalt doesn't open Reavers, he often gets that support bay later. It allows him to get speed on his shuttles, Reavers to defend any kind of timings, slow down 3rd bases. And then eventually he'll go into mass shuttle style with Storms, Zealot Storm DT, Zealot Storm Reaver, drops into the Terran base and just keeps the pressure on without going to Stargate tech. So this is probably what we're going to see. And I mean, based on the opening, Dewalt is going to have an insane economy. He already has the 4th Nexus. He expanded towards Gypsy, but it's not a big deal if it's your 4th and not your 3rd. And we see he's probably going to take a 5th base as well. And Gypsy only now getting his 3rd as he's focusing on those upgrades. He's going to have an army deficit for a very long time here.
Yeah, but he's going to have the upgrade advantage, which, you know, Terrans these days rely on quite a bit. To only be down 25 supply at this point, it's still okay for Terran. And even though you think that 4th base is okay, I think that's not the ideal base for Dewalt. But these okay, those are 3 shuttles, and he sees that there was an opening in the main, also saw all the tanks are out of position, and he's able to avoid almost every single turret, and this is going to draw Gypsy completely back, okay? The Reaver, is there only one? You gotta also see that there's double armory right there. If he can knock those down, that would be huge.
And where the Dragoons are, Dragoons heading towards the third. Looks like they're not. So Zealot's just buying time here. Looks like the armories are being targeted. He might be able to get one. Oh my god, the Reaver Splash is so effective here at killing the armies. Looks like SCV is here to repair. One of the armies goes down. And this is why it's so lethal with these shuttles. And there's no Goliaths here. This shuttle might even escape.
Yeah, I think Gypsy got very lucky that that second army didn't die and also didn't do an attack at the third base at the same time. But either way, a lot of damage done. Oh, that Reaver didn't die. I thought it did. It has 11 kills, and you can tell that Gypsy expected it to die. That was another haymaker shot from the Reaver, and it's got something like 20 kills now. Gypsy was closing the gap, but now I'm sure you're going to see Dewalt's supply swell up pretty soon.
Yeah, Dewalt behind is taking a 5th base. I wonder what his gateway count is at. I think with all this harassment, he hasn't been focusing on that so much. The Reaver's still alive. Looks like he might be able to get another huge scare pop. No, looks like Gypsy's on top of it with the pull, and the tanks were close by. So manages to dodge a bullet there, but that was so much damage there for Dewalt.
Unreal amounts of damage, and Dewalt is so close to being max. The one way that you can hold this with a low supply is like float your eBay, float your barracks, obviously have a good sim city at your third base there. The choke is very light, but all the units are out of position. There's not a single tank overlooking this high ground. Now I think he will be able to hold this, but this was looking quite dangerous. No, is Dewalt going to commit to this? I think this is suicide. Oh, he's got Storm available. Blankets a couple of tanks in the back, but the tanks focus down that one Templar. And for now, Dewalt is going to back off, but you can see he's taking a 5th base on the top right side of the map.
Yeah, and I wonder if that was +2. Oh, another storm drop here at the third. That's okay. Not a lot of SCV losses, but still like 4 or 5. And with the Reaver in conjunction with that storm drop, that's so much damage to Gypsy's economy. I wonder if the upgrade that was denied was +2 weapons, because that would be huge. Losing +1 armor, of course, hurts, but it's not as big of a loss. And looks like we have Gypsy with 3 armors. He
was scrambling to make sure.
Yeah, and you can see behind us, Dewalt's actually exploding in economy. He's already at 5. He's taking a 6. Templar is like 6 energy away from another storm. The turret might kill the shuttle. Looks like Dewalt's on top of it, though. It's dropping out of range of the tanks, and another storm there, getting another handful of SCVs, and Dewalt just, I mean, relentless.
Yeah, and this is going to get dangerous for Gypsy, because not only is, of course, Dewalt on 5 or 6 bases, he's got the bank. He's got that 2K, 1K bank. He's got the other main where he can start flooding gateways. Vultures intercept a couple of these pros, but so many cannons, these Vultures are not going to get the damage that they want to get done. And you have to remember, Gypsy took so much damage, losing these 10 or so Vultures really hurts his supply. Like, Dewalt's almost max. If he was to just go for a counterattack, he could potentially overwhelm him. But for now, he's just going to continue building up that gateway count. It looks like it's approaching something like 15. And you know that there's going to be more gateways being placed down at top right. And this is what I was talking about Dewalt. Like, I wasn't kidding when I was explaining my experience versus him. He had something like 25 to 30 gateways when I played him.
Yeah, and Gypsy +1 armor just finished, so it might have been +2 weapons that was denied there with the Zealot Reaver attack, and that's really painful. So Gypsy's gonna wait even longer. He's taking a 4th base. He can't defend it, but he's relying on the Vulture harassment to keep the wall busy in the meantime. Look how many shuttles that is. The Zealots will eat the mines, but this is looking like a big bust attempt here. There should be high Templars and Zealots mixed in those shuttles. Looks like he's going in, going for the attack, going for the kill after Gypsy lost all those Vultures.
Oh, those Zealots ate so many mines. The shuttles. Okay, we finally see a couple of Templars get unloaded. They get a couple of good storms, but this was not the greatest attack from Dewalt. And honestly, this mini type of style with the mass shuttles, this is one way that Terrans are actually able to get back into the game, because Gateway Man with shuttle play, I mean, it kind of scales poorly in the mid and late game, and you can see Dewalt realizing that. He starts his Stargate, got his Arbiter Tribunal coming up too.
So we do have flying 2-1, but it's 15-30 and +2 just finished for Gypsy. And I mean, despite that, I think Gypsy's in a lot of trouble because his tank count is low. So even though the attacks haven't been super great, he has been able to kill a handful of tanks here and there. And if you could keep the Terran tank count low, it doesn't matter what their upgrades are. And this is only looking like maybe like 12 tanks for Gypsy.
Yeah, we saw Corsair being built, so that could escort these shuttles into the main, or can actually be used for recall too. 5 or 4 turrets already being set up for Gypsy. He desperately does not want to get those shuttles into the main again and pop another armory and deny +3. Mines are being placed everywhere, and that triggers these shuttles to go. The Corsair soaks up a lot of the hits, but okay, is he able to get into the main? One of the shuttles does not actually get in there. The Templars unload, but I don't think got enough damage done. And Gypsy is slowly crawling back up to 200 supply.
Yeah, he's building up that tank count, which is the key here. You can see Gypsy very poor though, because his SCV count has been quite low. And we actually see the huge gateway explosion on top right. So he's going to go up to something like 25, 30 gates, +2 armor just finished. We're looking at 2-2 mech, and Dewalt is maxed, but doesn't have any arbiters. It's only gateway man. I think he has a handful of storms. So Gypsy's army is quite powerful at this moment, but he really needs to go for the kill here, I think.
Oh, this is a nice backstab from Dewalt, and he realized that, oh, actually, Zealots can just waltz right by, but Dewalt's supply is, well, it's max, but there's not a lot of units in the center of the map. If he tries and takes this fight, I think he's going to actually get smashed. You got to remember, Terran has +2 right now, and that is a huge power spike, and that is the case. Dewalt is going to back off for now, and because he is max, there's actually not a lot of arbiters able to be produced. I think he only has like 1 building right now. I haven't seen multiple Stargates. And Gypsy did actually reach max right now. Dewalt, even though he has 7 bases, I mean, this is a powerful Terran army.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to go for the 4th. Gypsy just took. Nice High Templar here at the front. Looks like the storm is actually a whiff, though. And, oh, that's actually a huge storm's out getting on top of the tanks. That's a lot of tanks lost.
Yeah, a lot of tanks lost, but look at the supply of Dewalt. It has plummeted down to 150. Meanwhile, Gypsy's still holding strong at 165, and he is going to manage to get mid-left. However, he lost a ton of SCVs there to the Zealots, and I wonder if this will trigger Gypsy to go for a counterattack. It looks like he has a lot of SCVs left over at his natural, so he's just going to transfer them over, and he's still going to have good econ. Well, is he going to clean this up? I mean, these vultures all died to the goons.
So it looks like he eventually will kill them, but that was a lot of SCVs lost. And I mean, Dewalt, even though he plummeted to like 130 supply, you can see with his gateway count, he's already basically remaxed, and that's a lot of gateways. I mean, we're talking about 15 in the main, 2 at the 3rd, and there's like another farm at the top left. So Gypsy is gonna struggle here to get back to a critical mass of units. He's at 150. He really wants to be at 180 before he decides to move out. Looks like we actually have a shuttle in the main here. Dewalt should probably sacrifice that because shuttles also eat up supply. Looks like we have another storm drop at Gypsy's new base. Gypsy not seeing this. Oh my god.
He's getting storm dropped just over and over, but he's done a good job to build his SCVs constantly. You can see he's even transferring some more, so he's going to have a fully saturated base again, despite losing like 10 SCVs there. But the supply gap is just getting larger and larger. Again, just perma-max for Dewalt. Only 140 supply now for Gypsy. And Dewalt now starting to take top left is a really bad sign for the big Gyp here.
I gotta say, when Protoss gets that 3rd main, the game is basically over. You know, there's just not enough resources on the map for Terran to like contest. And I like that Gypsy's laying mines here. This will kill all the High Templars. The big concern here is, even though Dewalt hasn't been able to kill the army, he's done a good job at trading off and killing those tanks. Like every time we see an engagement, we see like 4 or 5 tanks bleeding off, and that's the key here for Dewalt. So we have another big engagement. No vulture support this time. You can see 4 shuttles getting on top of these tanks. Looks like the High Templars not really utilized well, but there's just so much Protoss behind this. Like, I think Gypsy will hold, but just every engagement that goes like that is good for Dewalt, with him being on 7 bases, and Gypsy, I think he's only on 2 now.
Yeah, Gypsy will just run out of money flat out if these trades continue to go on. Tank count is extremely low, and that is a ton of units coming out of like 12 gates right there. Zealots unload, and even though those shuttles had additional units, another tank is going to fall, potentially a 2nd tank, and there's just non-stop aggression all over the map. Templars get unloaded. Nice mines there connect and actually take them out. But just absolutely no map control from Gypsy at all. Doesn't even have mines out on the map because of so much action going on.
Yeah, well, keeping the Arbiters back, and they're banking up a lot of energy here. I don't think Gypsy's even aware that the Dewalt's actually going into Arbiters slowly. And, I mean, like you said, Gypsy just being kept in his quadrant, really can't move out, really focus on just defending the relentless harassment from Dewalt.
Yeah, he does scan that there is all 3 bases taking at top right. A lot of Terran players panic when they see Protoss with all these bases, but Terran players out there, you have to keep in mind that to support all these bases, you have to have the probe. So he may be over-probed, but you know what doesn't care about over-probing? Well, a recall into your main, and Gypsy has no units here. But that's not a big recall. He may be able to clean this up.
Not a big recall. He may be able to defend, but like I said, this will open up attack pass towards the new base's wall, and Gypsy is going to have to focus a lot of attention on this. And again, not a lot of units from Dewalt. Like you see, it's almost basically gone. Do we see any movement out on the map from Dewalt to pounce on that 4th base? Looks like no.
Nope, Dewalt is content with just perma-maxing again, building probably another Arbiter, but Gypsy handled that recall quite well. I have to say he did not patch up that hole with turrets, so we may see another recall in a couple minutes. But for now, that recall was handled quite effectively, but Dewalt, he is taking top left, and those mines do spot the probes, so he does know that top left has been taken, and that puts a watch on Gypsy now, because if he doesn't deny top left, well, he just runs out of money.
Right, because there's not a lot of bases left out on the map. Top left, those 3 bases are basically the only ones Gypsy can mine, so losing one would be disastrous. And oh my god, again, Dewalt, just so many shuttles, and I mean, Gypsy's broke. He's basically almost maxed. He really can engage at 140, 150 supply, but he's nearing that 160. Yeah, he's at 160 supply here. He has the vessels to support. He has some Goliaths finally, which should be able to help with the shuttles. And Dewalt is kind of in an awkward position here, but he's not really sure where his entire army is. Maybe he is over-probed, like you said.
He's got a lot of it in those shuttles, and there's almost no Goliath support. There's no Vulture support. I think this is just going to get slammed. 3 Goliaths do take down one of the shuttles instantly, and Dewalt is not using his whole army. Actually, a lot of it's sitting in the middle of the map. I thought he was just going to swamp this army. I mean, he ends up taking down all of the tanks anyways, and now, well, I guess it didn't matter. Oh, actually, he doesn't clean it up. So now, oh, they're going to have another fight in the center of the map, but there's no Zealots here to help these goons.
Oh, but that was a huge stasis there. You see, even with just pure goons, there's just too many goons here. Gypsy's tanks getting picked off, and Gypsy's army is kind of split. He had some at top, some as the rally, and then these tanks here, and it looks like the wall is just, I mean, you can see, even though he goes down to 130 supply, he's already at 180. Soon he's going to be remaxed again, and just, he's losing his 4th now, Gypsy is. And I think this is the wall breaking through here. Even if he doesn't kill him, like he's denied Gypsy from mining top left, and every minute that the Dewalt mines that base is basically just like nailing in deeper. Look, you can see Gypsy, he only has like 6 patches there and 1 full base here. Just not enough economy to contest, and slowly running out of steam.
Oh, he gets off a nice EMP there. You know what I was actually expecting? I thought that Dewalt was just going to sack top left, because I mean, he has so many bases, he can sack it. And I thought he was going to shuttle into the main and recall into the main and just have, you know, Gypsy across the map and just kill all of his factories. But it looks like he does want to just deny top left, and there's minimal defense here. More shuttles coming in. Again, no Goliaths here, so they can't knock down these shuttles. He's doing a good job with the little amount of defense he has. It's 180 to 113. It's almost impossible to defend this onslaught from Dewalt, but he's barely holding on. And as you stated, supplies go down for a moment for Dewalt, but instantly back up to 195 supply.
Yeah, just non-stop, relentless harassment and attacks from Dewalt. Gypsy basically hasn't left this side of the map in the entire game. He's just been pinned, focusing on defense, and Gypsy, I haven't seen him above 160 supply. So when Terran can accomplish that, you can say Protoss is pretty much won. And the cannon high Templar defense, so even if Gypsy does break through here. Eventually, he's going to have to deal with cannons on top of a ramp with high Templar support. Just very cost-inefficient trades for Gypsy. And, I mean, he's holding on. He's fighting for his life, but just too much Dewalt here.
Yeah, I think we're going to see GG any moment. The fourth has been breached. Top left command center is almost dead even. And again, it's perma-max versus a Terran player that can't hit critical mass on anything, whether it's tanks, vultures, vessels, Goliaths. He just doesn't have the army. There it is, GG. And Dewalt, he's going to easily take game one.
Yeah, you gotta say Dewalt. I mean, that's how he plays. If you watch his stream anytime, that's his style, Protoss versus Terran. And I'm pretty sure Gypsy scouted Dewalt before their match, and he's familiar, but he still got caught off guard by those 3 shuttles with the Reaver sniping 1 armory, and then just the storm follow-up, just relentless pressure from Dewalt. And Gypsy couldn't leave his side of the map.
Yeah, and as I stated, the macro impeccable from Dewalt. He literally had like 30 gateways or more. You just can't keep up with it. I mean, Gypsy had a lot of factories. What was it, like 9 or 10? But it doesn't matter when they're just endlessly coming. And you know what I found the most impressive was the shuttles. Like, he just didn't lose almost any of them, and the harassment was brutal. Non-stop with the Templars, just perfectly executed from Dewalt.
Yeah, if every time he went to that shuttles, it was the same 4 shuttles that were all pretty low in health, but they just didn't die, and he kept reutilizing them and got a lot of damage done with them.
Well, game 1 heading over to Dewalt, but I think that was his map pick. So let me see what next map is going to be. And next map is going to be Revolver. So Gypsy picked this. And in ASL, we saw a lot of Terran wins with like pushes, like slow pushes, turrets being built constantly. Remember what came to mind was Sharp versus Sins, I think. It was a deadly push. But lately, games I've seen in sponsored matches, Protoss players were just going like 2-base carrier. And a lot of Terrans were just dying to the carrier control. So I think we may see something like that now that we know that the second map is going to be Revolver.
Yeah, and I think this is a good map to open Nexus first and go into something like 2-base carrier. And like I said, Dewalt is not afraid of any style of PvT. He does have the one he likes the most, but he can really mix it up. And Gypsy does have Revolver, which is a good Terran map overall. But against that one specific style, Terrans do tend to struggle here.
Yeah, it's really hard. And this map, even though I was talking about seeing a lot of pushes, like, you can range the Nexus from the low ground. You can build turrets at the low ground while you're pushing. But every time I've tried it, it just doesn't work. I don't know why, but it just ends up backfiring completely. So we'll see what Gypsy has come up with as his opener. For those of you that watched Gypsy stream yesterday, actually he played Mighty 3 times and he played Snow 1 time. So he got a really good practice yesterday. But I mean, the Snow game, like, the carriers were just untouchable. So I really do think if we're going to see carriers on any of these maps, this is the one that Dewalt has the best shot at using them on. So with all that said, let's get into game 2. Dewalt up 1-0 in the series. Okay, in the top left, looking dominant as usual, it is Dewalt.
And in the top right, you have Gypsy in the red, who for the first time this BSL has looked like the inferior player. He really did get outplayed in that first match. And I mean, what do you do? If you're Gypsy, you just gotta go with what you're comfortable with, but when you're going up against the wall, he really makes you uncomfortable. You saw how hectic and how quickly it got that way once those shuttles swooped into Gypsy's main.
Yeah, and even though Gypsy has great like vulture harassment and you could see once the harassment started from Dewalt, all of a sudden those minefields didn't get set up anymore. Protoss had free reign over the entire map. And it's just, once you play a great Protoss player, it's not so easy for Terran to just sit there anymore. So great play from Dewalt in the last game. And I do agree that I think we may see 12 Nexus here, and it's really hard to bust on this map in particular. And he's queued up multiple probes, so that's exactly what it's going to be.
Yeah, so this is just a good 12 Nexus map. And from watching Dewalt, on normal maps, because this is not a normal map, he doesn't always like to go 12 Nexus, but I have seen him play against Koreans, and versus Koreans, his actually go-to opener is 12 Nexus. But against foreigners, he just goes for fast Nexus with no goon range. But here on Revolver, because the map is so strong for this opener, I'm not surprised at all.
Yep, now one of the intricacies of this map is, of course, those like couple mineral patches that probes can drill on. So if a pull comes, the probes will always have the potential to drill onto that mineral patch, and that makes it even harder. And then, of course, Terran's moving uphill into that very tiny choke. Now, unfortunately for Gypsy here, this is going to potentially be a last scout. He's going to go bottom right. He may go for the end scout like we saw last game. But luckily for him, I remember the statistics in ASL saying that vertical scout was like super close spawn. So he still may be able to get to top left in time to go for a pull if that's what he's going to decide to do to punish this 12 Nexus.
Yeah, from watching Gypsy stream, Gypsy always goes for the end scout, basically because cross map, you're not going to do anything against the Nexus first. You really want to scout both adjacent spawns. And looks like, yep, he is going to scout the wall. This should be a pull. From what I've seen, Gypsy likes to punish 12 Nexus with a bunker rush. But even if the wall were to lose this base, because he's going for the greedier one gateway follow-up, Dewalt can't get enough probes out of his second Nexus that even if he loses it, he still will end up ahead economically, and the game goes on from there. And we do see Gypsy continuing to make Marines, so should be a pull here.
Yeah, a lot of players always ask me, like, is it okay to just sack your Nexus? And the answer is yes, in particular scenarios like this, where you're not cutting. You can lose that Nexus, and it just goes into, like, kind of an even state because you've still got so many probes. You've got the goon advantage, of course. Vultures, don't do much damage to goons. So there's the pull as expected. I'm sure Dewalt is expecting this too and probably was anticipating this. Now, I didn't get to see exactly how many SCVs that was, but that looked like a lot, and that's because it is a lot. Now, this is a 10 SCV pull. A lot of times you see players like Flash only pull like 7-ish. So actually, Gypsy has to do a lot of damage here.
Yeah, it's just going to be one Zealot, one Goon, no shield battery, no pylon at the net. And I like this because this is a full next side. You're not making a pylon at the natural that you lose and then like later get supply blocked here. So it's just got to be careful not to lose a lot of probes here. And there's the Goon out. It's going to target SCVs primarily. Damn. But here we go. Marines already here. The Goon is here as well, but it's not going to do a lot without range.
Yeah, but this is already 6. Okay, Gypsy might focus down that Goon. Remember, it's only one gate. Oh, he's actually going to move in here, try and catch it, but the Zealot with the high ground still hasn't lost all of its shields yet. And Gypsy might lose the majority of his Marines. He's going to double bunker. I think that's a bit of a mistake. He pulled so many SCVs to secure the Nexus kill. Could have been content. Yeah, just cancel that. Stay on the one bunker and try and transition out of this. But you can see Gypsy really hurt Econ, can't even afford a command center yet.
Yeah, so the second bunker was a bit bold. I think he got a little bit excited when he got that Goon in the very low red, but you saw that Zealot just didn't die. It was taking Marine and Vulture shots, and it still had all of its, or like the majority of its shields. So, I mean, that was a bit unfortunate there for Gypsy. Dewalt does lose the Nexus. I don't think he made a lot of additional probes out of it. So at least Gypsy has that in his favor, but he did pull, like you said, 10 SCVs. He still has 3 here at the front. Not really sure why they haven't hightailed it out of there. I guess he's gonna buy time to get some mines, but otherwise, not really sure what they're here for.
Yeah, he's waiting till he mines because obviously you can't retreat with any mines, and now he lost the Vulture, and of course Dewalt is aware of that. This bunker is 100% dead. And now there's a lack of mines. He even built another Zealot, or did it never die? He can use the Zealot to clear out the mines and actually push across the map if he wants.
Yeah, I think.
Or he can do that.
Oh! Okay, looks like one of the mines actually detonated. Yeah, if the wall were to push out, Gypsy losing that one Vulture is actually huge. That's 3 less mines here to defend. Gypsy could be in trouble if the wall just waltz across the map, and looks like he is going to go for that. He's going through the top side path, and Gypsy's going to have to make a bunker. At least he kept all or most of his Marines alive, so he doesn't have to remake those. But I mean, despite killing the Nexus, I think the wall is still ahead here.
Well, dangerous position for Terran for all types of reasons. One, he can get instantly killed because there's zealots pushing through mines, and he's still got 5 goons behind it. Second, as a Terran, when you see the guy building zealots, you're thinking, whoa, did this guy build DTs? Is he just going to sack the zealots to clear the mines? So you can see Gypsy already scrambled to get an eBay. That cuts into his second factory timing, cuts into his armory timing. And he has no idea what this is. Meanwhile, goons, they're here already, and how many Marines are in this bunker? Okay, it looks like there's quite a few loaded up, and luckily Siege is just in the nick of time.
It's a little bit nervous, nervous moment there for Gypsy, but he is gonna defend. He's gonna get his armory. He's gonna go into upgrades, and the Dewalt's Nexus just finished. Gypsy just started mining his natural, so about the same time. But again, Gypsy should have a worker deficit here.
Yeah, and even though Dewalt lost his Nexus, he's the one with map control right now. He's going to take a 3rd Nexus pretty soon. He's got Observatory already done, so Observer's going to be out on the map. And we may see that delayed Reaver like you were talking about last game. Oh, actually, is that not a probe? I thought it was.
It looks like he is sending a probe. He already has a 2nd gas, so this is actually pretty fast of a 2nd gas here. And there is the Reaver, so it's going to be a Reaver follow-up, and this is very, very good for Protoss here. You can see Gypsy's still only on the 1 factory, and I mean, Dewalt's going to be able to take a 3rd, go Reavers as well. And there's not much Gypsy can do.
Yeah, 2nd factory coming up. Didn't get to see if there was an armory, but I'm sure it has at least started now that the gas... Oh, it's already done. So he's got +1 coming. But as you mentioned, Dewalt with his 3rd base coming up at mid-left. I'd want to see if Dewalt... Oh, there's a shuttle, so it is going to be Reaver.
And this is going to be hard for Gypsy to defend. It's going to have very low tank count. It's okay, that is a 3rd factor, so that's good. He's going to be able to mix in a couple Goliaths, although he's a little bit gas starved. I don't know if his 2nd gas timing was on point. And I mean, I gotta say, Dewalt's feeling very comfortable here.
Yep, Academy coming down. So you're gonna have a comsat in about a minute or so. Meanwhile, there's the Citadel, so we're going to be scaling into our Templar Archive or Stargate Arbiter play pretty soon. 3rd gate coming in. Dewalt feeling really confident in his position right now. You can see he's cut quite a few units, so actually allowing Gypsy to catch up in supply, but still no way for Gypsy to punish this 3rd base. That Observer in the main did not actually get a count on the factory, so for all he knows, this still could be something like a 5 fact, but now seeing the starport, now seeing the command center, he knows that again it's just going to be upgrade Terran.
And Gypsy trying to move out on the map, but you can see Dewalt had goons at both positions. It makes it a little bit harder for Gypsy to get out, get some harassment done. He will be able to lay those mines. I don't think he'll be able to get into a 3rd. There's a full pylon wall there, but just having the vultures out on the map is nice. It's like the Reaver unloads. Gonna go for that turret. There's no units here to defend. Looks like the tanks are moving into position, but the turret will go down. The shuttle's actually quite far away from the Reaver, though. Almost goes down. That could have been disastrous. Shuttle does have speed, though, so you gotta be careful.
Ooh, you can tell Dewalt's trying to bomb those SCVs, whether it's with the Reaver or the Zealot. This tank splash would deal a lot of damage. Zealot and Reaver unloads. The Reaver gets taken down, though. Oh, and that's not a very good scarab. It only got 2 kills, I think, on those SCVs, but the Zealot, okay, almost gets a couple of SCVs with the splash, but in the end gets taken down, so not a lot of damage. And we can see supplies are pretty much even at this point, 89 to 95, and vultures do confirm mid-left, and nice pylon block from Dewalt.
Yeah, so the Reaver didn't get the job done. Really only got maybe 2 SCVs, forced turrets, didn't get any tanks. But I guess that's not enough. That's a good defense there from Gypsy. But looks like the wall is actually going to keep making shells, so it's going to look like a repeat of game number 1. And I like this. I like the full pylon block. Sometimes we see like a semi block with the vultures still getting in, but the wall not messing around. Really doesn't want to let those vultures get in. And full block is good, at least until drops are in play.
Yeah, nicely done from Dewalt there. Sometimes you do have to be careful though, because if you overbuild pylons, you shoot up in supply but don't have any units. Like for example, we see Dewalt at 150 available supply, but if there was something like a push, you know, that supply or those pylons could have been in units, and would have helped him out obviously to defend the push. But not gonna punish him this time around. Second armory not spinning, so hopefully that was a missed armor upgrade and not weapon, because obviously +2 weapon is huge in Terran versus Protoss. But Gypsy securing his third base. This third base has a gas, so that's great for Terran. But there's those pesky shuttles again, and I see no Goliath.
Oh man, and the Vulture support is out on the map laying mines. Looks like they are retreating now, but the Zealots get right on top of the tanks. You see his tanks are splashing themselves, and the Dragoon support is coming in. Looks like the tank targeting from Gypsy isn't that great, but this so many tanks already gone down. The supplies are actually catching up to Gypsy, and now without Zealots, just 3 tanks in the back will be enough. Looks like the Dragoon's just barely in range of the tanks though. And Gypsy's gotta be careful. Oh.
Ooh, that mine does not connect, but killing those three or four tanks, that was crucial for Dewalt. Even though supplies are even, if Terran's majority of supplies and vultures, I mean, that doesn't win you the game. It's going to take so long to rebuild those tanks. So a nice attack there from Dewalt, and at the same time, he ended up taking bottom left, so he's going to be on 4 bases. There's another shuttle. We don't know if there's Templars in there. I actually think there are. We'll see. Oh, goodbye Templar, but another 2 unload. Blanketing the SCVs. He takes down about 10 or so. Nice harassment.
Yeah, let's say one difference this game is Dewalt's 4th and 5th base are actually quite a bit later than they were in game number 1. So even though this is a lot of damage being done, Dewalt is not running away with the game because he still has... Oh my god, is this a follow-up High Templar drop, or does this actually have Zealots? It's like 1 Zealot at least. Definitely looks like he's trying to bait. There's a High Templar as he's just returning. Oh, but looks like Dewalt does manage to get another huge storm mine. I mean, Gypsy's got to be looking at something like 40 SCVs here. And he's going to have to keep remaking, but we have a huge Vulture counterattack here. 2 cannons, not enough.
Yep, not enough, especially with the upgraded Vultures, and this will even the score in terms of lost workers. Probes are being pulled off, doing a good job to keep the Vultures from dealing as much damage as they possibly could have. He saves maybe like 4 or 5 probes there. But nice harassment from Gypsy there to even up the score. Supply is now at 130 to about 120. Nice mine drags. 2 Zealots sacking their life to kill like 8 Vultures.
Yeah, very nicely done by Dewalt. He's going to keep the Nexus alive. You can see Gypsy still remaking SCVs. One of the best things Gypsy has is constant SCV production. So even though he lost most of them, he will be able to remake and get up to that 55, 60, 65 range pretty quickly. High Templar hiding there. Gypsy does see it though, fortunately for him, because it almost had another storm.
Yeah, just needed like literally 2 seconds. Another Vulture attack to mid left. These goons obviously are going to die, but may be able to buy time to get these cannons up. Maybe not though. Those Vultures are heavily upgraded. I think +2 is kicked in by now. And the tech from Dewalt is honestly pretty late. The Stargate just started, and supplies are pretty decent for Terran.
Yeah, I gotta say, in the first game, Dewalt was basically maxed with the 5th base and adding those gateways. So looking much better for Gypsy. He's getting a lot more damage done with the Vultures than he did in game 1, and even gonna save a couple of these as he retreats. Dewalt only mining from 3 bases, same as Gypsy. Now gonna saturate that 4th, and this is looking much better. Looks like we're gonna have... Oh, actually, it's going to be a later carrier switch from Dewalt. I don't know about this. His gateway count is suspiciously low, and Gypsy's about ready to move out, I think, or maybe he's going to wait for 3-2.
Yeah, Dewalt's position, I'm a bit worried for him. It's not an overwhelming amount of gateways. The storm harassment has been okay, but you can't switch into carriers right now because Terran's about to hit a huge power spike. I think for now, this is just anticipation of a carrier switch. Right now, there's only 1 Stargate, so this is maybe could be just Arbiters for now. But Gypsy, he's got good econ. He's got good upgrades. He's got decent map coverage with the mines. I think he could just set up a 4th base and go for a strong push through the top side.
definitely a possibility here for Gypsy. He's at 155, not that far behind the wall, but looks like he's actually going to keep harassing, build up his tank count, and go for a later push. This is something like 15 to 18 vultures. It's only 3 cannons and 1 dragoon here. Not enough. Looks like all the probes again will be taken out unless the wall can come here very quickly with the dragoon support.
Yeah, but this is a huge commitment of vultures for just cannons and like 1 goon. He didn't even kill that many probes, and you can see that Gypsy's supply shot heavily downwards, but because his macro is so good, he's able to still keep around 140 supply. It does free up supply to build more tanks, but that was a lot of supply loss, and I think I would have liked it more to go with a push because he should have +3 completing momentarily. Oh, there's the Stargates.
Yeah, and I don't know about this at all. This is going to be a lot of dead supply for Dewalt, and he's going to face a very well-upgraded Terran.
Yeah, and you have to think, like, that's 30 supply that Terran could have had. We would be in a different scenario here, like 185 supply versus max Protoss that's in the middle of a carrier switch. I really think that was a mistake to sack all those vultures for little return. But we'll see if Gypsy's going to try and exploit this one moment of vulnerability. Also, 6 supply and shuttles. I mean, you don't want that. Whoa.
Oh, is that a vessel?
Is this
broken?
I feel like this could be broken because Gypsy has some of the best. Oh, is it not broken? Gypsy has some of the best vessel control. For him to lose a vessel like that is very unusual, but maybe it did just get misrallied there. But he still has 2 vessels left over. He needs to find out whether this is carriers or not. You can see from his mini-map perspective at the bottom left of the NAT, or of the main, I mean, he has not scanned those Stargates just yet.
Gypsy's actually supply blocked here, which is an awkward timing as he's trying to take his 4th base. He can't really make units to support these tanks. There's a shuttle here. This could be deadly if this has Storm. Tanks are very clumped up here, but looks like no. Gypsy's actually going to take the 4th. Wait, is he rerouting his command center? I'm not really sure.
This seems unusual for Gypsy to not recognize he has, 50 supply just sitting there. All right, we're going to go first person view, guys. We're going to go into Gypsy screen. You can see actually he doesn't have 50 supply just sitting there. And we're going to have a huge engagement in the center of the map. 170 supply for him. We know that Dewalt is pretty much maxed right now, approaching 200 at least. But he does have about maybe 15 to 20 dead supply in those carriers being built right now.
Yeah, so Dewalt can't really fight through this little narrow choke. He's trying to get on the high ground, so maybe utilize some storms. There's a high Templar, but it instantly gets sniped. Not really what you want to see as your Protoss. Gypsy trying to get out into the middle of the map, though. Looks like he's scanning forward, but I think this is a moment where Gypsy still doesn't realize the wall is actually going for carriers.
Yeah, you can see that he has Goliath mixed in with his vessels, but there's only 3 Goliaths. And in general, you want to have like 3 to 4 Goliaths per carrier. So even if there's just 2 carriers, there's more than enough anti-air to take down this army. This is a huge push, though. He has so many tanks, and I love what Dewalt is doing. This counterattack, all it does is buy time, and you can see he's scanning. Like, there's no way this guy's building one Stargate carrier. He definitely thinks that this is Arbor, and that's just not the case.
I mean, Gypsy's out on the map, so he has map control here. He just has to worry about the counterattack. And he's scanning desperately. He's looking. He sees finally the carriers, but it's already 3, maybe 4. And Gypsy's currently max. He can't really produce a ton. You can see he's going to trade off some of these vultures, but I mean, that's so many carriers already.
Yeah, he needs to just sack these vultures and turn his tanks around. I mean, if he continues to commit here, he's just going to lose everything. It's 5 carriers. That's a ton of DPS, especially since Dewalt has been upgrading, weapon upgrade the entire game. These are not going to do, little bits of damage from the interceptors having their damage negated by the armor. Luckily, there's more Goliaths coming in to reinforce. But again, it's already 5 carriers, and you need something like 20 Goliaths to handle this.
Yeah, and Dewalt, with these carries, he's able to snipe off a lot of the units from Gypsy as they retreat. Goliaths here will buy some time, but again, not enough to fight this carrier fleet. The upgrades are in Gypsy's favor. That's a decent EMP to get rid of all the shields. But you can see this is a lot of supply from Gypsy that doesn't shoot up. He still has a lot of vultures alive. He should really look to trade them off so he can spend, so he can have some more supply to spend on. It looks like the gas at his third is actually not mining fully, so he's really, really low on gas as well.
Well, I like how Gypsy is taking a base while this attack is going on. And if he can EMP those carriers, he hits some of them, that's going to eliminate a lot of the shields. But of course, so hard to actually get on top of the carriers. Templars get isolated, and he's going to knock them out. But look how many carriers there are. There's something like 7 right now. There's still a lot of Goliaths left over, but I don't know if there's enough. He's still pushing those. So many tanks are left over.
The Goliaths got clipped by storms though, so these are very bruised Goliaths. We're only looking at like 10 Goliaths here, some more reinforcement. Gypsy still has like 20 tanks alive, so it really allows him to clear the ground army.
I think Gypsy needs to just go to bottom left, try and branch off a couple of tanks to take down the third base. Oh, great harassment at the 4th base of Gypsy. Dewalt kills a lot of probes there, and you can see he's got an attack going at the 3rd base also. So Gypsy being picked apart, he's going to try and knock down bottom left, though, with all these tanks. But these storms are blanketing all of the Goliaths. Does he only have like 3 left?
Yeah, and no gas here to produce. I still think the 3rd gas from Gypsy hasn't been mining because he's on such a low gas amount. He's doing a good job here with these tanks. Really needs to kill at least 2 Nexuses here so the carriers struggle to produce interceptors. Killing one is very good, but he really needs to go into the main and kill the other. But you can see Gypsy just doesn't have any Goliaths anymore.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of time until all these tanks get taken down. The carriers already intercepted the ones in the center of the map. Gonna knock down these tanks that are pushing into the main. And Gypsy, as you stated, he's like not mining gas at his 4th base. I don't know about the 3rd base. You can see his Nat is completely mined out. That Archon is wreaking havoc over at bottom right. He's about to be mined out at top left. And Dewalt still has 2 bases at least available.
Yeah, you see the 3rd gas from Gypsy only has 1 on 1 SCV mining, and he did Dewalt a lot of economic damage here as he was fighting those Goliaths and tanks with those carriers. Looks like Gypsy managed to take out the 4th base, but the 5th is still alive and healthy, and here are the carriers. And I mean, Gypsy has just not enough Goliaths here.
Yeah, and you're seeing it right here. One of the reasons why Revolver is such a good carrier map. They just are always over the ledge. Templars all over the place, DTs even. There's no way to actually get on top of these carriers. Terran has +3, but when there's like 10 carriers, you've got to have legitimately like 35, 40 Goliaths, and that's it. Gypsy taps out, and Dewalt, he's going to take game 2. And yeah, it was broken. Look how many units are just sitting there.
Yeah, and you can see Gypsy instantly went into the replay. He wants to see how he missed that this was a carrier switch.
Yeah, because you scan and you see the Stargate, and you're like, all right, it's only one. It's got to be Arbiter. But nice mind game from Dewalt to hide the other 2. And you could see that it completely caught Gypsy off guard. He had 3 Goliaths. That was it. Which is all you need for shuttles, but versus carriers, obviously you need a little more.
Yeah, and if Gypsy had seen it, he would have moved out earlier. I don't think he would have thrown away all those vultures either. And we're talking about 180 supply Terran pushing towards a Protoss that has maybe like 40 supply dead between shuttles and carriers. And with the upgrades Gypsy had, I think it would have been very difficult for Dewalt to buy himself time. And I don't know, just a miss there with those scans. You saw he kept scanning. Just saw the 1 Stargate. Didn't really see anything else and assumed it was Arbiter, and it really cost him the game there.
Yeah, and that means that Dewalt is up 2-0, and just like in our previous series, we've got 1 player on the ropes, only 1 life left. And if he doesn't win the next game, he's going to be eliminated and moving into the 3rd and 4th place match. But before we find out who's going to be moving on into the finals, we're going to go into a break, and then we'll be back with game 3. back, guys, and again, we're in another scenario where this could be potentially the last game. And unfortunately for the big Gyp here, it's going to be Dewalt's pick again. And Dewalt, what did he decide on?
Ascension.
Ascension. And again, this is another good carrier map if you can get to that point in the game. But we already saw a few games from Gypsy on Ascension, and this is a very good Terran map too. But I don't know, all that shuttle harassment I feel like is going to stall Gypsy like it did on Wavelet. And we may just get into another scenario where Dewalt just has infinite bases and 30 gateways, and it's going to be so hard to recover from that scenario.
Yeah, I mean, Gypsy is really kept in his base longer than he is against other Protosses when he's up against the wall. I will say it is easier to take up 4th base on Ascension for Gypsy than it was on Wavelet. And I think because, I mean, Dewalt's already shown his hand, right? This is what he likes to do, the mass shuttle style. So Gypsy really has got to mix in those Goliaths earlier. We haven't seen him open Goliaths in any game. And it eventually opens up a vulnerability. Once he's taking his 3rd, it's very hard with just turrets to defend all 3 bases. So Dewalt's taking advantage of that every game. And another thing is, I don't think I've ever seen Gypsy lose on this map. So like, he crushed Oya, he beat Terra, he beat Mihu. It just seems unbeatable on this map.
That is true. Every time we've seen him play on here, he looks unstoppable. He has good positioning, good mines, good tank count, getting 4 base while having high ground. I mean, that's amazing for Terran, but with it being such an open main, like Tau Cross levels of open main, I'm just thinking like, well, you built a lot of turrets on Wavelet, and still Dewalt was able to find weaknesses. I think it's going to be even harder this time around. And also, it's harder to get back to your base in general because of the small pathways leading to your main. So I'm sure Gypsy has that in his back of his mind. But it's also a 3-player map where if Dewalt gets the other main, you don't have the option to take another main yourself. You're on a clock from as soon as that base gets taken. So let's see if the big Gyp can come back, or is Dewalt going to be moving on into the finals? All right, in the bottom left, looking as strong as ever, it is Dewalt.
In the bottom right, down 0-2, we have Gypsy.
Yeah, and I want to see forward gate from Dewalt because we haven't seen Gypsy go for gasless yet. And even though gasless is not a common build, we did see him pull it out on Aztec. I have a feeling we may see gasless on this map. So I would like to see the forward gate, or at least a Zealot opener from Dewalt. He hasn't opened with that just yet. I just want to see him put some pressure on Gypsy and kind of, set the pace from the get-go.
I gotta say, these are pretty good spawns for Terran because the way Protoss wants to expand, they're gonna take their first 3 bases, but then Dewalt's 4th is a little bit awkward because you don't want to take the one that's nearest to Terran, but you also don't want to take the one that's kind of in the middle of the map. You always want to expand on the perimeter. So, and Gypsy has a pretty clear expansion path. Just expand vertically, you can get 4 bases, and they're all basically, if you just control that high ground, you can defend all of them.
That is true. So we'll see what Dewalt wants to do about this 4th base placement. Just as a Terran seeing this, I just think instantly, okay, direct path to going for shuttles into my main. I'm going to be worried about that from, minute 5 and beyond. Now we do see the racks being placed in the main, so this is more than likely just going to be a 12 gas, but Gypsy is going for a scout, and there is no gas, as you mentioned. So this is going to be a type of gasless opener, and Dewalt gasless too.
Okay, so gasless from both, and something different from Dewalt. He's gonna go for Zealot aggression. Gypsy this is definitely a Rax expand, but he's not doing it at the natural, of course. So you just do it here, and you're closer to your SCVs. You make the SimCity here as well, so pretty safe from Gypsy.
Yep, now unfortunately for Terran, going to be a last scout, and I can tell you, Gypsy is not happy about this opener because, Protoss would have been lacking units versus a 12 gas where you can just build Marine Vulture nonstop, and I think that could have just been an instant killing move. So the one game he goes gasless, Dewalt ends up getting away with an equally greedy build, but still gasless is fine. He's going to be able to transition out of it. Now there's a probe and zealot moving in sync together to bottom right, and this has the potential to do a lot of damage since there is no SimCity.
Oh, and then Dewalt went for Nexus on 16. He's going gas now, so at least the second zealot won't be super fast, but he is going for this build where he's a little bit vulnerable to zealot openers, and Gypsy finally now getting the scout in.
Yeah, when he sees this, he's going to be scrambling to get up another Marine and another SCV. Now, Gypsy has easily the best Marine micro, but it is hard to face a Zealot with absolutely no SCV support. So far, he's only taken one hit. Look at this control, just immaculate. And the Zealot is actually going to have to turn around. Now, something to keep in mind is that probe branched off and is hiding now. You almost never see that. And that's why, because he's got something up his sleeve.
What do you think? It's going to be a robo?
I think it's
additional
a robo.
Gateways?
I think it's a robo.
Yeah, it's positioned so far forward that it's actually really, really close to Gypsy's main.
Well, this is going to be interesting because a lot of players do go proxy robo versus gasless openers, but I don't know if I've ever seen this off of a gasless opener from Protoss themselves. Now, Terran knows something is up because there's no range, right? He knows that this is either proxy robo or proxy citadel, but he has to make a guess. You would think that it's going to be proxy robo because it's just such an open main. Robo is so good here, you would expect that, but you also have to consider DT too.
And Gypsy going double factory here. And I mean, Gypsy never saw the probe, but I don't think he saw it was scouting either. There's the first Dragoon heading out. Gypsy not sending any additional SCVs to scout for proxies, so he's not like ruling that out. And here we go. Robo's almost done. We have the two Zealots still alive, so it's gonna be a very fast shuttle and Reaver right away, and they're already supported. We have the Academy from Gypsy. First factory done.
Well, Academy is what you normally do versus with gasless, but the problem is that means there's no turrets, and we already saw Dewalt just wreak havoc with a Reaver when there were turrets all over the place. So to have no turrets, I don't know what Gypsy's going to do here. His armory is maybe like 30% of the way done, but unless he instantly builds Goliath, this Reaver and shuttle is just going to run rampant all over his main.
Yeah, so I mean, Gypsy from here, he's either going to make one tank or he's going to make three, right? He's already getting an upgrade. The Goliath production is not really factored in with this opener, and he's going to have at least the scans, but the first scan usually goes towards the main, and the support bay was built as part of the pylon wall at the natural, so not likely to see that either. You will probably see the gateway count, which is somewhat of a tell, but it's very hard to gain a lot of information with just the one scan.
Yeah, now Gypsy has mentioned to me that when you see no range, you can skip going for siege. So more than likely this upgrade in the main or on the factory could be mines, which could help him versus the Reaver if he unknowingly unloads onto a mine and takes a big hit. But at the same time, because he saw definitely something's going on in the probe missing, this may still be siege mode. But you can see there's just a lack of units right now for Gypsy. There's one tank. That's it. Reaver's already out. The Zealots have already been unloaded. And here we go. The drop is about to hit the main any moment now.
Yeah, we saw the fact that this is proxy. Look how quickly it's get. It is at least a Goliath, but the tanks are actually shooting the eggs. Reaver unloads. Looks like he's going to go target that Goliath. He can get the Goliath. The shuttle has free reign. Looks like the first Scarab bug. The second one gets on some SCVs. What?
Does it though? Those are the worst Scarab shots I've ever seen. How does that happen? So a bit of luck on Gypsy's side, but still, this Reaver, it doesn't fire. But the Goliath falls. That means the shuttle is still going to be able to run around. He's able to actually deal with this Reaver about as well as you could possibly deal. He even saves both of the tanks that were heavily injured. Okay, he kills one SCV. Am I seeing that correctly? He killed one, and that was it.
Dragoon pressure at the front as well as that was going on. But yeah, those first two scares for Dewalt were terrible pathing from them. Like, they could have taken a worse path.
Yeah. Who was it? Of course, we know who it is. It's Bonneth. If those were Bonneth Scarab shots, 100%, those 3 Scarabs would have probably killed every SCV. So luck was definitely... is that a canceled command center? Okay, I think it was canceled. But that luck was definitely on Gypsy's side there. And now we're going to be going into the typical 2-1 upgrades. And Dewalt just now started his 3rd base. Meanwhile, Gypsy starting his own 3rd command center.
Yeah, so take a small breath there. If you're Gypsy, you managed to survive the scariest part of the game. The proxy robo, that definitely could have done like disastrous amounts of damage.
Yeah.
Both tanks were actually repaired to full health. So we're gonna have a bust as some of the units are in the main, so the threat isn't over. It's now 2 Reavers. 4 Goliath's not really gonna help here. He really needs to unseat those tanks. Looks like, oh man.
He didn't respect the amount of goons, and Reavers there are. Both Reavers are still alive. The shuttle's still alive. There's so many goons left over. Double Reaver. Tank gets popped. SCV gets popped, and that's it. Gypsy taps out into Dewalt. He's going to be our 2nd finalist, moving on 3-0 versus Gypsy.
That was unfortunate for Gypsy because it looked like he got over the worst part of the game for him, but Dewalt just found another opening there. And I have seen sometimes when Terrans, you don't really want to siege those tanks in the main because for that very reason. You want to be able to move them towards a natural and put them in siege position if there's an attack there, because the threat is always the bust after. And those 2 tanks that were in the main sieged up really would have helped there. I think he could have held on, but Dewalt found the window there and he was able to win game 3. And with that, I mean, we have our finals and 3rd place match set up.
Yeah, and this sets us up for Mihu versus Dewalt, which we've seen in a show match previous to BSL. And the score was, what, 5-4 for Mihu? So this is going to be super, super close. And you can see how strong Dewalt's Protoss versus Terran is. As far as the foreign scene, Gypsy arguably the best Terran. So for him to win 3-0, that tells you all you need to know how strong Mihu's TVP is. So this is probably the best finals we could have gotten.
Yeah, and it also sets up for a very interesting 3rd place match between Gypsy and Ziki. We have seen them actually play recently, and what was it? I'm drawing a blank here, but Ziki did win, and Gypsy probably gonna get up for that. He doesn't want to lose against Ziki, but he's gotta feel pretty bad after losing game 2 the way he did, not scouting those carriers, and then losing game 3 after, I mean, basically being given another shot right in the game with those 2 Scarabs. He just ended up losing anyway. And well,
yeah, and Dewalt kind of baited him, set him up for that bust, because if you think about game 1 and game 2, what did Dewalt do while drops were happening? Like he never attacked anywhere at the same time. So I'm sure Gypsy was thinking, okay, I fended off the drop, we're good. There's nothing that's going to happen. And
yeah,
then, of course, the one game, he just bust the net.
As you saw, he instantly made that command center, right? Just instantly.
Yeah.
And it did get canceled by 3 Dragoons, but he only saw 3 Dragoons, right? He didn't see an overwhelming number of Dragoons. And then all of a sudden, it's 8 Dragoons. There's 2 Reavers in the shuttle, and it's just 1 tank at the front there, and just not enough. And I mean, immaculate play from Dewalt, really showing why Koreans think he has the best PvT in the foreign scene. And Gypsy, still a strong tournament run for him. It's not over. He can still get 3rd place, which I gotta say, of all the players in this tournament to make a big impact with their play, Gypsy definitely up there. Just couldn't do it against the Dewalt, but still a very successful tournament run.
Yeah, really good showing. If you make the top 4, that's fantastic. You're obviously a god tier foreign player, and it also confirms that he's going to be seeded into the BSL 14. So regardless of whether he won there or not, good showing, and he is going to still be, he won't even have to qualify for BSL 14 anymore. So nicely done from him, but Dewalt just looking super strong. And I agree, Gypsy's going to be turning up the heat versus Ziki. That should be another exciting series.
And yeah. BSL 14, which is, I think, confirmed now, thanks to big donations from Dragon, a few others, and especially CRVT.
Yeah, man, CRVT single-handedly almost confirming BSL 14 by himself. I know he made a huge donation even before today, so a big shout out to him. And I know there were multiple people that made considerable donations today. There was a $200 donation, a $100 donation. I remember that. Thank you guys so much. I saw a lot of bits being sent too. So thank you guys. And I guess we'll go into our sponsors right now. We, of course, want to thank Esports Fund and our Patreon supporters. The $100 level, we have Star Lover, Colonel level, Zero Sum, Striker, and Grail. $30 level, Dez and Tupacalypse. $20 level, Anivioli, Cuz, Christian, Eddington, Martin, Harsmar, LML, and Lingen Pump. And at the $10 level, HH, Herbsteled, Frikowski, Winnower, Ehoff, Unmained, Schmoodle, William Hammond. A lot of new names that I'm seeing today. You guys, thank you so much for supporting the BSL and all you other Patreon supporters. And remember, again, $10 or above, you get the replays. So definitely consider supporting if you want to get these slick builds from Dewalt or slick builds from Ziki and Mihu and Gypsy. And of course, we've got the shop, man. We've got the BSL shirts. We've got the BSL sweatshirt. The one that I'm wearing is the BSL sweatshirt. We've got hats, mugs. I really like that white BSL mug. So definitely think about considering the BSL by buying some merch. And I think that's going to be it for us. Oh, yeah, we can't forget this. 15% discount code. He says it's Taysagi. We all know it should have been Tayregi, but definitely use that code and you'll get 15% off. And then, of course, we've got the YouTube. The YouTube videos get updated a little bit later. But if you want to relive the magic on YouTube and not on Twitch, definitely check that out. And I think that's it, Seriosity. You have any final words after today's matches?
Well, I was about to say great matches and see you all next week, but it's actually tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to have the semifinals and the finals, which is actually best of 7. So everyone, please tune in there. And I mean, thanks for supporting BSL. We already have BSL 14 guaranteed. And I mean, what a better way to celebrate the vacation, I guess, than to have that BSL guaranteed already. And I mean, just keeping the foreign scene alive.